Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of Coffee with Megha. Today, I am really happy that there's so many. I see a few people already here, and I am looking forward to answering your questions on mental health and personal development. So it seems like I got a few questions asking me if I can talk about your personal development goals and what does it mean and how is it related to having your personal development along with your mental health. So, this is what I feel. I feel that when you're pursuing your own goals for your personal development, you're actually making yourself feel better about who you are. Now, remember, if you're not feeling good in any sphere of your life, be it personal development or on your mental health area, it is going to affect how you are functioning as a person. So, personal development and your mental health kind of go hand in hand. So, it is okay to obviously ask a mental health professional to help you with your personal development goals. So, today I thought, why not lead with some of those questions and help you understand how both of them are very, very securely related to each other. So let's begin with the first few questions that I got on mental health, on your personal development. So the first one I got was, can you explain what SMART goals means and why is it necessary to have goals in life? Now, this is a very, very good question. And I'm glad that this was one of the first questions that I was asked to address in the form of personal development. Now, SMART goals, if you expand it out, means you're smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound goals. This means that if you are following your goals with this structure, you probably are more likely to have a fulfillment of that goal in your life. So let's break it down with what the SMART actually means. So the first one are small. It is very important to keep your goals in life small to begin with. And why is that important? It is important because if you set these massive goals for yourself and say you don't achieve them in whatever time frame that you set yourself, it affects your self-esteem and it also starts to, have an effect on your expectations of yourself because you've set higher expectations for yourself. So, to have a small goal and achievable goal is what it helps you with. So, the next part of this is your measurable goals. How are you going to measure that you're succeeding in this goal? So, if you have a small goal and you're measuring it against, say, a set timeline, so what is the measurement of this goal? A stands for achievable. The smaller your timeline, the more better it is that you'll be achieving a goal. You'll probably feel yourself motivated to achieve a goal. Relevant, which is the R in the SMART, means how relevant is it for you in your bigger life goals. So remember, if you're achieving small goals, then you're also achieving the relevant ones. So you have to make sure that your small goals are relevant to your bigger goals. And finally, the T stands for your time bound goals. So you see how all of them are related. Your SMART goals are time bound goals, which means smaller goals will be given specific timelines. So, say you are achieving something in your business where you want to be successful, but what is the SMART goal? A SMART goal is, say, for example, I'm going to market my business for a week and I'm going to see what the results are. Then I'm going to weigh out my results and see if this aligns with my bigger goal of succeeding my business. So you have to work with SMART goals to achieve your bigger goals in life. And this is why they are so important in life. If you don't have a purpose that you're going for, then you're not living your life with that perfect vision or a purpose. So having SMART goals actually means going for those bigger goals, having smaller goals, achieving those bigger goals. And you can see why this is relevant in your personal development and your mental health. Smaller goals means you're achieving something which is fulfilling that self-esteem and making you continuously work and feeling happy about achieving something. So they are related to your mental health. The less stress you feel, the better you are going to be motivated to keep performing goals for your own personal development. So I hope this answers your question. And I will move on to the next one, which is, how do I establish healthy boundaries? Now, this is a very, very important question, and it falls both in the realm of mental health and your personal development. Now, to understand what healthy boundaries means is basically how you set limitations within yourself. What are the rules that you're setting yourself for? How do you tell somebody, what, this is not okay? I don't appreciate what you did. So it is very important to understand your limits. What is the time when you're going to say, hey, you know what, back off, this is enough. So understanding those limits head on are going to help you establish those healthy boundaries. The next, step in establishing a healthy boundary is learning to say no. And it can be done in very different ways. We feel afraid to say no. It is so difficult to say no to other people. And there's so many ways that you can do it. So let me explain this with an example. Say some colleague of yours asks you to do work, but you have your own work that you need to finish. So a simple way to establish this boundary is by saying, hey, you know what? I cannot do your work right now because I have something that I need to do on my own, but let me see if I can help you after I am done. So you have set a healthy boundary for yourself. So learning to say no is also a big factor in setting those healthy boundaries. It's one of the key factors that I would say sets a healthy boundary in place. The next one is to be in tune with your feelings. If you are not feeling good or not feeling happy, let the people around you know, hey, you know what? I just need a little bit of space. I need to figure something out. Is it okay? It's okay to let people know that you're not in a good space right now. And if these people genuinely care about you, they will give you that necessary space. So let people know how you're feeling in that moment and tell them. That is what is needed to set a healthy boundary. Now, one other thing that I also recommend is learning to be assertive. Learning to be assertive on your feelings or whatever it is that you need to make sure that nobody takes advantage of you. And here is like an example that I can give you of how somebody becomes assertive. Now, say somebody's asking you again to do your work, their work, and help you with their work. So how do you become assertive in this situation? You say, hey, you know what? I can't do it right now. And I would appreciate it if you ask somebody else. So now you've become assertive. You've told them that you can't do it. Now, assertiveness also means that sometimes you can attach a consequence with it. And this is especially relevant when you are having to set boundaries in relationships. So in relationships, when you're setting boundaries, you can tell people, hey, you know what? If you don't improve whatever it is that you're doing, then this is going to happen. So now you've set yourself with an assertive, healthy boundary. So healthy boundaries are very essential even for your own personal development because you're learning what is good for you and what is not good for you. It falls under the realm of self-care. So if you are having self-care routines, in return, you are improving your mental health. So everything in your life is connected to each other. So I hope this kind of answers your questions on how you can establish healthy boundaries. I see a lot of you on my live stream. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you for this live stream. Leave a comment for me if you're finding benefit from it so far. If you have any question that you would like me to answer during the live stream, then please leave a comment and I will get to it during the live stream as well. And let me know where you all are watching from. It's really good to see a few of you on here. It feels like I'm somehow helping some of you. So let me know in the comments if where are you watching from. If you want any questions answered on your personal development, I'll be happy to answer them. So now my next question is, what psychological facts can I use to be a more likable person? Now, this is a very, very good question. And believe me, I get this asked a lot. But I'm going to answer it in two very specific ways. In order for you to ask this question, it would make me think as a mental health professional that somewhere along the way, your self-esteem did take a little bit of a hit because you're asking somebody to like you, right? So if you're asking somebody to like you, it genuinely means that somewhere along the line, your self-esteem was affected, and now you're trying to build that confidence again. So you have to find out why your self-esteem was affected, figure that issue out before you go out into the world again and try to build that confidence. Because remember, if your issue at first was not settled or processed, you will go out in the world and try to become likable, and say if somebody rejects you, then what happens? You again are going to have your self-esteem affected, and you're going to go into a little bit of a shell and not want to come out of it. So in order for you to address this question, I do recommend trying to figure out why your self-esteem was affected in the first place. Now, some of the facts that I can give you to make you a likable person is try to talk in front of a mirror. It's very difficult to talk in front of a mirror and see yourself, right? This is the best way that I've seen that it helps people talk and gain confidence. Because when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're actually seeing your own expressions, how you're talking, and it kind of tells you, okay, can I build this confidence over and over again? Yes, it does. It helps you build confidence by talking to yourself in the mirror. Now, say if now you go and meet somebody, then show interest in them. Rather than talking about yourself, try to figure out what is this other person's likes and dislikes, and try to match your likes and dislikes according to them. Now, let me give you an example from my own life. I have a very, very close friend of mine who likes art. And I also enjoy art. She's actually a professional art. She does she arts, what do I call it? She maintains the archaeological art. So she goes back and, does painting covers, and it's a big, huge thing for her. And I like art. So we kind of bonded on that. Even though I am not as big of an art, I don't have that much of an expertise, but I did have enough to bond with her. I showed her interest in what she likes. So it is important that you show interest in what the other person likes and bond on that first, rather than continuously talking about yourself. The other thing that I can tell you is smile. A person's smile speaks a lot. So when you are smiling, you're actually making a connection with the person in front of you. So have that smile on your face. It kind of shows that you're confident. And that also helps the person in front of you feel at ease. It's not always about maintaining eye contact and having that firm handshake. Psychologically, you need to make yourself approachable. And the best way to make yourself approachable is by bringing a smile to your face. It puts the other person at ease. So these are some of the things that I can tell you that will help you become a more likable person. But I also want you to know, as a mental health professional, that for you to ask me this question, I really need you to also process why you reached this phase of thinking that other people don't like you. Why is it important for other people to like you? So those are some things that I really want you to address with your own therapist, and then use some of the tips and strategies that I have given you to kind of make yourself more confident. I wouldn't per se that you want to be likable. I would put it as being more confident in life. So I hope this answered your question. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, and I hope that you also have a bit of some beverage in your hand while you're watching this, because it is a session of Coffee with Megha. So my next question is, why would people leaving their therapy appointment, chatting loudly as they pass my therapy session, provoking in me fight or flight, frustration and agitation that can last for a few days? Why would this have a negative impact on my session? Now, this is a very, very good question, because a lot of time when I was counseling my clients, it was apparent that if they had people walking outside, it would affect them in many different ways. I had some clients who would become, angry at why are they talking so loudly, and then I would have some clients who would completely shut down. So, for you to feel as if a fight or flight response has taken place, which is like an extreme form of response in a therapy appointment, in my opinion, it is because you're not feeling safe or secure in your therapist's office. There's something in that environment that immediately provokes this response in you. So, have a conversation with your therapist and let them know, hey, you know what? Whenever somebody walks by, I feel as if I need to run away, or I just feel scared. Is there something that you can point me towards or help me with? So it kind of is necessary to have this chat so that your therapist knows how to make this more safe and secure. Now, you're feeling frustration and agitation, which is the second part of your question, is because in all likelihood, somewhere in your life, having people talk loudly has negatively impacted you, right? Because you're feeling angry. Maybe along the way you felt that, whenever you spoke, somebody shut you down right away, and it built feelings of resentment. So if somebody is shutting you down right away, and if you start to feel resentment, it starts to build anger. So your frustration and agitation is because you feel interrupted while talking to your therapist. It's as if that same person has come back and told you, don't talk. So that is why you're feeling frustrated and angry. And that can last a few days because it has now affected you negatively. You felt as if your session was disrupted. So talk to your therapist and let them know that, hey, you know what? This is what happened and this is what I'm feeling. Can you do something about it? Right? And this is the reason why it's having a negative impact on your session. Because if you feel disrupted and interrupted because of somebody else walking by and now you have built up anger, it makes you lose that chain of thoughts. You lose that momentum that you were having with your therapist, especially when you're discussing such deep, dark emotions with, in that safe environment. So that's how it will affect your negative, that's how it will have a negative impact on your session. So let your therapist know. Because when I had these conversations with my clients, especially in sessions, I would gauge it right away when I would see them shutting down. And I would ask them, hey, did something happen? And when they told me that, I would actually go and speak to the other people around in my offices and say, hey, do you think you can go out maybe this way while if I am at my office because I'm having clients. So most therapists are going to help you in your process. They are going to help you feel safe and secure. Your therapist will try their best to make the space for you more secure. So have a chat with them. Let them know that when people walk by, you feel agitated and angry and you just don't want to talk anymore and it affects you. Let your therapist know the negative impact that it's having on you so they can take steps on their end to start making you feel safe again. Now my next question is, finally I reached out to get a new therapist, and at our first session she asked me, you worked with another therapist and you don't feel better. So why do you think it will work this time? I feel so ashamed for reaching out. Am I overreacting? Now, I feel kind of worried when somebody writes this that their therapist actually made them feel this way. This is not something that a therapist is going to tell their clients when they're meeting them for the first time. Because remember, that first session is critical for having an engagement and having that therapeutic relationship take place. So for your therapist to say, you worked with another therapist and you don't feel better, so why do you think it will work this time? It kind of makes me worried that maybe you're not with the right therapist. Generally, when I would have somebody like this, it is not the first thing in my mind when I'm seeing this client, though I know they've come with another therapist. In my case, my job in my first session is to make sure that my client is feeling safe and secure, that we are building a relationship of trust. So, what my goal at that first session is to find out, okay, you went to another therapist, but what worked for you and what did not work for you? Now, that is a very different question to ask, because now I'm trying to understand what worked for them and what did not, because I need to know what did not work for them so that I don't repeat the same things the previous therapist did, right? Because they moved from another therapist and came to me in the hopes that I'm not doing the same thing that the previous therapist did. So that is what my job is. My job at my first session is to create that relationship with my client. My job with my therapist is to, my job as a therapist with my client is to figure out, how can I serve my client better this time? How can I make sure that they're taking the most benefit out of a therapeutic session? So, for you to feel ashamed, let me apologize on behalf of that therapist. And I'm sorry that you felt this way, because you're not supposed to feel this way in a therapy session. You're not supposed to feel ashamed for reaching out to a new therapist because you felt that they were a better fit for you. So, find yourself another therapist that makes you feel good, because if you've started out with just feeling ashamed right from the get-go in your therapy session, then I don't know how secure you're going to feel with this therapist moving forward. All right. And I kind of feel sorry that you had this experience with your therapist. And I hope that you find somebody better who connects with you at your level and works with you at where you're at. Now, my next question is, do people actually improve with therapy? What has your experience been? How do you assess prognosis? I have a hard time believing my therapist when she says things could get better. How do I know when to stop because it isn't working? Now, this is a really good question, and I'm going to answer it in different parts because it is so long. Do people actually improve with therapy? Yes, I've personally seen people improve with therapy, and they improve with therapy because they're doing the work. They're going through the whole therapeutic process. They actually improve with therapy because they are willing to do the work. So, to improve with therapy means you have to do all of the necessary things that your therapist tells you. Now, we as therapists can show you the path, of doing whatever it is that needs to be done, but you have to do the work. So this is how you're actually going to improve with therapy, is by doing the work, by making sure, that all of the work given to you by your therapist is being done. And if you don't do it, then again, it's a whole process of understanding why you are not able to do something, right? So people actually improve with therapy, but the work needs to be done by the client. What has your experience been? My experience has been that I've seen improvement in clients when we have a trust relationship. So if you have full trust with your client, with your therapist, then you can tell them the reasons why you weren't able to do the work, or why you were not able to process your emotions. So if you are not able to do something, then you should be, happy and open to go and tell your therapist and not feel scared that they are going to judge you for not doing the work. Now, how do I assess prognosis? The prognosis of a therapy is actually assessed, kind of midway in sessions. That's how I would do it. Every therapist is different. I would actually see from my own, notes and from the sessions, from the get go, from the first session to the mid session, which I feel is the middle point, and assess how they're doing. They might be doing something which is in their minds, you know, making them move forward in therapy, and I will support them all the way. To see those subtle changes take place in a client is very important. To see their confidence build in sessions is also very important. When they themselves tell you, hey, you know what, I feel good about working with you on this, then you know they're making progress. And that's how you know that the therapy is going to succeed, is because your client is giving you positive feedback and letting you know that this is working and this is not working. So I know you're having a hard time believing that your therapist says that things could get better, but I want you to believe that things do get better. Things get better because you are doing the work. Things get better when you tell your therapist the things that are not working for you in therapy and things that are working for you in therapy. Because remember, everybody in their whole life relies on positive and negative feedback. So if something is not working for you in therapy, then you need to tell your therapist so that they can change their modalities. They can change the way they are counseling you. So at a given time, at any given time, you need to tell your therapist, I need for you to change this a little bit. I need you to slow down a little bit. Let them know. And that's how you know that things are going to get better, because your therapist and you are always on the same page. And how do I know when to stop because it isn't working? You stop when you don't feel the connection with your therapist. So that is when you stop. As soon as you feel that, there's no trust in the relationship, or you feel that your therapist is pushing you too much, then you for sure know that it isn't working. The basic key to understanding that a therapeutic relationship has broken, is when you feel that the therapist is not understanding what you're saying. So start believing in the process, be open with your therapist, let them know what's working, not working, and you are going to see yourself get better. Now, I hope this answers your question. I'm going to take a quick sip of coffee before I move to my next question. Now, therapists keep giving up on me. I can't cope with my severe depression. Should I just give up? Now, this was a question that was asked to me on one of my social media platforms, and I thought this was a very good question to kind of put here as well, is do not give up on yourself. If you're coping, if you have a therapist that is giving up on you, and it seems like you've said therapists, which means you feel like a lot of therapists that you've worked with have not been able to help you, then find a therapist that is actually trained in depression. Because if those therapists are trained in depression, they know what to do and help you. Because remember, not all therapists have the correct training to help a person who is severely depressed. You need to know the therapist's their profiles before you go to them. So don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the process of therapy just because you feel the therapist wasn't able to help you. And because I am trained in depression disorders, I know it is very hard to believe this, but you need to find a therapist who specifies in their profile the amount of time that they've trained with depression. How long have they had clients with depression? Do they have connections with a psychiatrist and a psychologist to help you with? Because all these things are absolutely necessary for a person who has severe depression. And why is it? Say if your therapist feels that they need to now know how severe your depression is, they can send you to a psychologist and get a test inventory done, and they can tell you how you are on the depression scale. Now, if you have severe depression, then this therapist also needs to have a contact with a psychiatrist to help you get those necessary antidepressants to make you start feeling better. It has to be a multidisciplinary kind of a team that helps you through this. Not a simple therapy is going to take you through. It has to be done as a team. So you need to find a therapist that has all of these connections. And how do you find this therapist? You call them up and ask them, hey, do you have training in depression? How long has your training been? Do you know a psychologist that can help me? Do you have a psychiatrist, if the need be, that can help me? What are your contacts? Who is it that can help me feel better? And then you will start to see a difference. But do not give up. Do not give up on the process of therapy just because you had therapists who didn't understand what depression is. You need to find those people, the correct people, to help you through this process. So I hope that, if you're watching this, that you know to go and look for a therapist that is going to help you in a genuine way. Because once you have the antidepressant medicines, then therapy with a psychiatrist approval and everything works better. And people with severe depression do start to see a difference. So don't give up. Find a therapist, like I've told you, who has training in depression, and get yourself the necessary help. Don't give up on yourself or the therapeutic process. Now, as a therapist, why do you think people dislike hearing the truth about themselves? This is a very, very good question. And it falls under the realm of truth being subjective, right? When I perceive truth, it is different from how you can perceive truth. And that's when a certain difference happens, right? My truth is different than your truth. And the understanding of it differs. Now, if I have challenged you on a truth, I've also now challenged you on your belief system. Because if you are believing something for a very long time and this therapist comes along and says, hey, you maybe need to think of it in a little bit of a different way, then that challenges who you are at the core. So it becomes really difficult for people to hear the truth because their beliefs are now getting challenged. And your therapist's job is to make sure that they give you alternative paths to thinking of what the truth is. And your truth is now based on a long-term sort of memories. So it's very hard for people to hear the truth because, especially in therapy, because a lot of their belief systems are now getting challenged. And that is why people dislike hearing the truth in the system. And that's when many of them leave therapy, is because when they feel like they're challenged in sessions and they don't want to hear it, right? People who succeed in therapy are actually willing to kind of rethink their memories, their truth, and process everything that is being said. And that's how they succeed. But most people, when they hear something, when they hear a truth which is different from theirs, it brings anger. It brings resentment. It brings a lot of things out towards the therapist, and you have emotional outbursts in those sessions when the truth is being challenged because they don't want to believe that something happened to them, that they had to process something which is very, very difficult, right? Now, this is one of the reasons why I feel that it is very, very difficult for people to hear the truth and kind of move forward. But once you're over that barrier, once you know that you've kind of, had a different opinion, or you're looking at the scenario from a different perspective, you kind of made the biggest uphill climb in the whole process of therapy, because now you're making that necessary change to help you and change that truth that you've lived for so long in a more beneficial way to you. So this is why hearing truth about themselves hurts people. And majority of the time, most therapists have seen that when the truth is being, it's being challenged, they take a break from sessions. And that's because they're processing whatever has been told to them. They're processing the new information in their minds. Now, I would say about 60% of them do come back to therapy once they've processed this new truth that they've been given, a new perspective. I would like to call it a newer perspective, and they move forward. So this is why I feel that most people dislike hearing the truth because it challenges them on their core beliefs. What is social anxiety and how do I know if I have it? It's a very good question. Now, social anxiety is defined as an anxiety when you are in a given social situation where you feel really aware of who you are when you are with other people, when you're around other people. And what are some of the signs, your symptoms that you will see when you have social anxiety? You will not want to talk. That is number one. You will feel that when you're talking, you're getting judged. So every time you speak, you feel scared. You feel like this panic attack that is coming on, right? You don't like to go outside because again, that feeling of being judged comes back. You are uncomfortable in your own skin. Now, this is the hardest thing that people hear when somebody tells them about social anxiety. It is because you're not confident in who you are. You're not confident in who you think you are supposed to be. I mean, do you understand? There's a difference, there's a lag in what you think you're supposed to be versus who you really are. And together, all of them combined give you social anxiety. Now, how do you know if you have it? If you are feeling stressed and anxious in front of other people and you feel like it's too much to handle, then you know you have social anxiety. When you feel as if you suddenly had a loss of words, when you are in a social environment, then you know that there's something that is bothering you. When you feel like you're going to have kind of like a panic attack, then you know you have social anxiety. So all of these together are signs that somebody is having social anxiety. Now, this is kind of not, I tell this in a few of my other, sessions on Coffee with Megha. I had social anxiety. I lived with social anxiety for a very long time. I was very scared to talk in front of other people. And that is because I always had the fear of being judged. I always had the fear of what is the other person going to think about me? What is the world thinking about me right now? And here I am actually now sitting in front of you doing a live session in front of so many people, and I'm not feeling anxious. It's because I had to work on it. It took a long time to overcome that social anxiety. It took time because I had to get comfortable in my own skin. I had to feel happy with who I am, my own personality, my own values, my own traits. I had to become happy with myself first in order for me to say, this is who I am. And if you can't accept me as I am, then it's fine. I had to overcome that barrier of getting judged in life, that fear of standing in front of people and trying to pretend somebody else, to be somebody else. I had to overcome that barrier. So I know how it is to live with social anxiety because I've lived with it. I know what a scary feeling it is to be in a place where you're always feeling stuck or scared and judged. So if you want to know you have social anxiety, then look out for these signs and symptoms. When you're in front of other people and you feel like you're going to have this panic attack, not wanting to talk to other people because of the fear that they are going to judge you in some way. All of these are signs and symptoms that you have social anxiety. Now, to overcome social anxiety, you have to go see a therapist, right? You have to figure out why your social anxiety started. Most social anxiety cases start at a very young age, especially in children, because either they're bullied for the way they look, they're bullied for the way they speak. That is when social anxiety develops. So it's important to understand at your phase right now. I don't know from this like how old you are, but you need to figure out when the social anxiety started. What was the triggering event for your social anxiety? Because every social anxiety case has to have a triggering event for it to take a full form now, for you to feel anxious in front of other people. So talk to a therapist and figure out what was that triggering event. And then start to desensitize yourself towards that event, because that's what social anxiety treatment looks like, is when you desensitize yourself to that same stimuli over and over again. so that you know that it was just a one time event in your life and it doesn't actually make you who you are. So if you are struggling with social anxiety, go find a therapist who specializes in anxiety disorders, because this is actually a very specific anxiety to deal with. So find a therapist, find out your triggering event, see if this therapist can desensitize you to your triggering event and stimuli, and you are going to see a progress. So, and I tell you this because I've lived with it and I got the necessary help. And I know that you will benefit from going to a therapist and talking it out and figuring out what was the cause of it. All right. Now, I hope this helped you with your answer. And I hope that, you feel the same way as I do and that you don't feel anxious in front of other people. Now, my next question is, what would therapy help cope with being away from loved ones in a nursing home at Christmas? I feel it would be a waste of time because it wouldn't change anything. Now, this is a question, I kind of edited it out a bit. This is because they had written that they have a person in nursing home who, because of the pandemic, they cannot go see. So yes, therapy obviously helps in coping with not seeing loved ones during Christmas. Because remember, now we are in a very, very strange time, right? Where we are told to stay away from our families and friends and keep ourselves safe and to keep ourselves secure. So, talking to somebody about not meeting your loved one helps you process all of those negative feelings of resentment and anger. It helps you process why it is important to have a conversation with your loved one who is in a nursing home, right? You can, if you're not meeting them in person, then you can at least talk to them via phone or, maybe do a FaceTime, right? There's so many things that you can do to talk to a loved one in a nursing home. And the reason you feel that it would be a waste of time is because you feel it's not going to change you from, it's not going to change the scenario of you not meeting your loved one in a nursing home. But it allows you to process those feelings of resentment and anger, right? Because you're not able to see them. It allows you to not hold on to those negative feelings, right? Christmas is a time that you feel happy. So you have to have this conversation with a therapist and say, I'm feeling angry and resentment at whatever is happening around the world because I cannot meet my loved ones. I want to meet my loved one and I can't do it because I need to keep them safe. So process those feelings with a therapist, right? It's not going to change you. It's not going to change the scenario of you not meeting anyone, but it is going to help you process all those negative feelings. Because what happens if you live with those negative feelings during the time of holidays? You're not going to truly enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy the holidays. You're going to feel miserable. But at the same time, if you have coping strategies in place, it allows you to have a Christmas, I know, away from a loved one, but at least it's going to bring that bit of happiness within you. So therapy only helps you cope. It's not going to change that scenario of where, meeting your loved one in a nursing home, but it is going to help you process all of your emotions. So, find somebody to talk to. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It can even be your closest friend. It can be a family member, and just vent it out. Vent out the whole situation that the world is in. Vent out everything that you need to make yourself feel lighter, and enjoy the holidays as much as you can, even though you're away from loved ones. So I hope this kind of helps answer your question, and I hope you feel better, and I hope you find somebody to talk to. My next question is, what happens when a therapist has a very emotional session with a client, then sees another client right afterwards? Does the therapist ever carry over residual effects from the previous client to the next client? This is a very, very good question, because sometimes therapeutic sessions generally are supposed to be lasting about 50 minutes. We do go overboard by the time we're finishing with our previous client. Now, as part of our training, we are actually told to learn how to kind of detach ourselves from one session and go into another session. It's critical for a therapist to do that. And it happens by the time when we're walking the other client out. We take that minute to come back into our office, kind of rearrange, drink that, sip of water. And then by the time we're getting the other client into our office, we have to kind of quickly make that switch, kind of bring that person into perspective, the person who we're getting into our session, and give them our 100%. So generally, there's not a residual effect from one session to the other because we're trained in our profession to keep those feelings separate. Now, as a mental health professional, I can tell you that after we finish our whole day, we kind of go back and self-reflect on all of the clients that we had seen. And that's when we're kind of now focusing on, okay, this session, was very emotional for the client. Why did that happen? So it doesn't happen in between the sessions. It actually happens after we finished our day with the clients. When we go back and refocus, because remember, a good therapist is going to go back, write down or look over their case notes and see what happened in each and every session of the day. So that when the client comes back, we know that they had certain things that they wanted to deal with. They had certain emotions that they wanted to deal with. So that is when we are actually working on figuring out why was the client emotional and what can now we do better to help them, move forward. But in between sessions, it has to be like a quick switch off and a quick switch on. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's what, if we are overrunning or we've ran over the other session and we're running late between sessions, that's what's generally happening in our minds. We're kind of switching one off and switching the other one on and getting that client back, getting the new client back into focus. So I hope this answers your question and kind of helps you understand what a therapeutic process kind of looks like, and how we generally help our clients during a day when it's very busy and we're between multiple clients. Now, it seems like this was my last question for the day. And I hope that it kind of answered a lot of your questions. All of you that saw this live stream was able to kind of understand a lot of things about personal development. I see that some of you are still out there. If you have a question that you want me to answer on personal development, please let me know in the comments and I can take a question or two right now. These are all the questions that I had so far. And if you found benefit from kind of this video, then, with this live session, then do leave me a leave me a thumbs up or a like button, or let me know that you've enjoyed the live stream. And if you want to email me questions, because I do a live show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can email me at the email address that I have just loaded on into the screen. So my email address is megha@meghamathur.com. So if you have any questions that you would like me to answer on personal development, on mental health, on anything that you want, be free to send me those questions, and I will make sure that I let you know on which live stream your questions are being answered. So I hope to see you next Wednesday. I hope all of you have a great weekend. I hope you found benefit from this live session. You want me to answer questions? Please email them to me at megha@meghamathur.com. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, everyone.